Hey friends, welcome back to the channel where I talk about Web3, DeFi, and how to make passive income on your crypto. Now today, we're going to be jumping into the Degen Box UST strategy, which is how to make up to 85% on your UST stablecoins. Now, if you watched a previous video I did on setting up a DeFi savings account, this is basically a way to juice your returns using Abracadabra, which is a collateralized lending platform. Now, before we get into this, I want to make a couple of disclaimers. One, this is not financial advice. This is just purely informational. Number two, it does use leverage. So if you're not comfortable with that, just know that it is leverage. It is on stablecoin, so it's not as volatile as the rest of the market, but it is leverage. And number three, it is using the Ethereum network. So if you are against paying gas fees, and you don't have a lot of money to work with, then this might not make sense for you as a strategy because there is going to be gas fees, and unless you're working with $10,000, this might not work for you. But if everything else sounds good and you want to make 85% or more on your UST stablecoins, let's jump in. So here is how the Degen strategy works. You will supply UST into Abracadabra, and what they do on the back end that you don't see is that they take this UST, they bridge it over to Terra because they need to make this UST a yield-bearing asset, which it's not currently. And if you remember, I did a whole video on Anchor Protocol and how to use that. But this is essentially using Anchor Protocol to create a yield-bearing asset. So they'll take the UST tokens from Ethereum, bridge them over to Terra, put them into Anchor Protocol, take the AUST, which is basically the receipt of the UST tokens they put in, bring it back to Ethereum, and then deposit it into Abracadabra, and then again, borrow it against it again. So they're basically looping a stable coin to make it a yield-bearing asset and bringing it back to Ethereum. So all of this is done in the back end, and all you see is that you are providing UST and you can borrow MIM against it. And MIM is a stablecoin, which allows you to basically take high leverage against it because you're basically borrowing a stablecoin against another stablecoin. All right, so let me show you Abracadabra.money. If you are connected to Ethereum, you want to go to borrow, and you'll see all of the different pools where they take yield-bearing assets and what can be borrowed against them. Now you want to scroll down to the UST pool, and you can see here that there's 555 million, and that's within like a month or so of this being launched, that have been borrowed against UST. And there's only 452 MIM available to borrow. So this is not an unlimited pool. More MIM is available as they add, or as they mint it, or as people are liquidated. Now I'll go into that shortly. So this is where you would deposit your collateral. So let's just say that I wanted to deposit 10,000 UST and I wanted to borrow 90% of the money against it. So I'm putting in UST, I'm borrowing 8904, and the only thing that's going to get me in trouble is if this UST drops to below 0.9894. Now, it is a stable coin, but it has been known to lose peg. So this is a little too risky for me. So I might say 82%. So I can basically borrow, and I will only be liquidated if the price of UST falls below 90 cents. I don't actually have any UST in right now, but if I did this, basically it would put my UST in, I would make 16.56%, and I would have MIM in my wallet to do whatever else I wanted to do with. However, the point of this is not to just put your UST into here, because if you just put it into Anchor Protocol, you're making 19.56%. So there's no point in, paying Ethereum gas fees and doing it this way unless you're going to change your leverage. So when you change your leverage, you click on this, and you can read their docs on exactly what it is, but it's basically this strategy. So when you leverage and use leverage, you're basically allowing them to loop your money. So the first time they do it, they take 85% of your UST, they loop it over to Terra, put it into Anchor Protocol, take their AUST, which is the interest-bearing receipt, bring it back over, and then borrow against it again. So they're constantly looping this depending on the amount of times that you want them to loop it. So what that does is it changes your leverage. So instead of getting 16.56% at 1.9, you're getting 44%. And if you keep pushing this up, you could get a liquidation price of 90 cents, but expected leverage of 4.69. So you're basically making 85.3% on a stable coin, and you're borrowing 41,512 against this UST because it is looping it over and over again. And the great thing about this is you only are paying gas fees like 2 or 3 times. So if you come in here, you can look at how the leveraging works, and it also shows you the transaction. So you'll have to approve the collateral token, so UST. You'll have to approve the spending of the collateral token and borrowing the MIM, and then, so it's basically 4 transactions you need to pay for. So if you're doing any less than, like $10,000, it does get expensive, especially on Ethereum. But if you're doing it with a large sum of money, you can get crazy APY on stablecoins with this strategy. Now, something I do want to make you aware of is that you want to make sure you're not being too risky with your collateral, because you could get liquidated. Again, you are using leverage, and so just because it's a stable coin, UST has been known to lose peg. So if we go to UST and we go to year to date, you can see here that in May, when we had the huge crash, it dropped down to 94 cents. So the stable coin dropped on 94 cents. And in the case of this, my liquidation number is 90 cents. So I would still be okay. However, if I had gone up to 6.86 leverage, because I'm thinking, 96 cents is safe, I could have been liquidated in May when everything else sort of dropped. And if you go all time, you can also see that back in December of 2020, it dropped to 85 cents. Now, a lot has happened with the ecosystem since then, but you do want to be aware of this risk whenever you're deciding what you're borrowing and then what you're deciding on as a liquidation price. Now, I do in another wallet have this set up, and my liquidation price is 90 cents. So that's what I'm comfortable going with. Maybe I'll change my mind if things, change, but just so you know, that's what you're looking at. And the great thing about this is once you do this, it's just going to work behind the scenes and do this strategy without you having to pay for gas. And again, because it's a stable coin, this is the Degen savings portfolio if you want to borrow against it. Now, like I said before, you can see here that there's only actually 452 MIM available to borrow. So you're going to be limited by what you're able to borrow from this pool. It is the most popular pool on here for probably the reasons I just showed you. So a lot of people are interested in getting into it. So I would recommend that you follow MIM Replenishes on Twitter. If you look here, 13 hours ago, they had 4.3 million MIM available to be minted. And if you come down here, I looked at this, damn, gone already. So within an hour, in less than an hour, this 4.3 million was already gone. So if you see this and you're already interested, you will want to make sure that you have UST in your wallet so you're able to do this strategy. And I'll show you how to do the next part of just getting UST next. Okay, so how do we get UST on Ethereum? If you have Luna on the Terra network, you could swap it for UST on TerraSwap. Of course, then if you are bullish on Luna, you will lose some of that upside because you are swapping to a stablecoin. If you did the previous strategy on Anchor Protocol where you put your money in and set up that DeFi savings account, you could withdraw that UST and transfer it back to Ethereum using the Terra bridge, and then you would just add it as collateral to Abracadabra.money. And I will link all of this below in the description. And if you don't have anything already on Terra, I would recommend buying USTC coin. If you're in the US, either on Coinbase or on crypto.com, you would withdraw to an Ethereum wallet, and then you would have to have some Ethereum in that wallet to be able to cover the gas fees for future transactions, which involve exchanging that USDC for UST on curve.finance, which has a lot of liquidity and low fees. And then from there, you would just add it as collateral to Abracadabra.money. All right, if you like this content, like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what other videos you want to hear from me. All right, I'll see you in the next video.